Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Coach Krisler's Convos. Today, I am joined by Dr. Brad Campbell. Hello, how are you today?
Very good. Thank you for having me on, Krisler. Appreciate the pleasure to talk to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. And before we get to talking about your health journey, tell everyone who you are, where you are from, and what you do.
Yep. So my name's Brad Campbell, Dr. Campbell from Chicago area, Illinois, United States. I say holistic physician because I went to the chiropractic and naturopathic school near Chicago. Also went to acupuncture school and 5 other specialty degrees in nutrition, neurology, homeopathy, internal medicine, and applied kinesiology. And I'm working on finishing currently. And I run a holistic practice just north of Chicago with couple different practitioners, doctors, nurses. We have a hypnotist and a massage therapist. And I enjoy, my dog, Albus, an Irish setter, and water skiing. And I love snow. Maybe a weird thing about me is I love the cold. I love the winter. And we haven't had any snow in Chicago yet. And I'm pretty disappointed so far.
Wow. I can't believe that we're in January already and no snow.
Yeah, there's been a little dusting, but nothing's stuck yet.
That's so disappointing. But
I know.
For this Texas girl, I would be totally fine with that.
Yeah, totally. I was just looking on the news. It's been 100 years since this has actually happened. There's been almost no snow.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. So, wow, you have a plethora of different areas that you studied, and certainly with the practice that you're in, having all the different practitioners is fantastic. And really, you're giving your patients such a wide covering for their health, and that's fantastic. So I want to talk a little bit about what brought you to being a holistic doctor, going into naturopathy and these other areas.
Yeah, so there's a couple stories, I guess. Later on in life, my mother had some health challenges like Lyme and sarcoidosis and lupus, and was not helped by the conventional system. And I was able to help her, along with some other natural practitioners, reverse those conditions naturally. And I had some sinus surgery and tonsillitis and things like that, which could have been easily solved if I had just removed dairy. But the doctors told me that food didn't make a difference in my congestion at all. So I asked him 3 times, and he's like, nope, there's no research behind that at all. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep eating a quarter to a half gallon of chocolate milk a day and playing saxophone for 10 hours a day. And lo and behold, blow that mucus right into my sinuses. But it really started when I was about 9 years old. I had a concussion where I was in school and I was doing gymnastics. My friends and I were doing flips off of desks, and I had done a flip, but slipped and hit the corner of my head on the corner of a really sharp desk.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up blacking out and ended up in the hospital. And for 9 months afterwards, I lost half of my IQ, most of my short-term memory, and my personality was just flat. So I was like Dory from Finding Nemo. I went from a grade ahead to a grade behind in school, went to 20, 30 different doctors and specialists, and had CAT scans and MRIs and EEGs and sleep studies and the whole shebang.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors just said, we don't know what's wrong. This is just your kid. He's going to likely be this way forever. Mm-hmm. And luckily I got sick and I was out home from school. And luckily my mom also got hit by a drunk driver. And so she got bad whiplash. So it's sometimes the things that you're like, oh, this is the worst, actually end up being the biggest blessings in your life. And like my concussion. So I was sick from school. My mom got hit by a drunk driver. She was going to a chiropractor who does soft tissue, low force adjusting, no high velocity cracking. And she took me with because I was sick from school. I kind of had to go with because we couldn't afford a babysitter, I think. And instead of having her appointment, she asked the chiropractor, hey, can you look at my son? He's pretty messed up after the concussion. And the doctors say there's nothing we can do. He's like, let me check him out just to see. And it was the first person in 9 months that had actually touched me after the injury. And I had hit the front of my corner of my head, but opposite where I hit, there was an indentation the size of a golf ball. So in modern Western medicine, they don't really view cranial adjusting as a big deal, except for like little infants, but your skull
Right.
doesn't fully fuse till you're about 20. So in craniosacral or craniopathy or cranial adjusting, that's a big deal, especially before the age of 20, 24 years old. So the sutures were pressing inwards, putting pressure on my brain like geographic tectonic plates. And basically he had me feel it. You can actually see it on the CT scans, which I still have. You can see the actual indentation on the brain.
Mm,
And modern radiologists don't look for that as a problem. But
right.
basically, he spent his rest of his lunch with me, spent more time than he had allotted, and spent an hour basically like taking the cranial bones and gently allowing that pressure to come off my brain, realigning the cranial sutures. And I left an hour later completely back to myself, completely normal, smiling for the first time in 9 months. It was like someone just turned the dimmer switch back up on my brain. It was nuts.
Whoa.
So like my IQ came
That is
right back.
nuts.
Everything, yeah, it was bonkers. And of course, for that doctor, he's like, yeah, no big deal. I see it all the time. Like, have a good day.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Pay the lady on your way out. What? Oh my goodness. And my sassy self, if I was your mom, I would have taken you right back onto those doctors and been like, see, I told you something was going on. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So what was your mom's response to this? I'm
Well,
really curious.
she is a nurse, was a nurse, and she had somewhat of the sassy response too. So when she tried to tell the other doctors that, they basically said, oh, it was just timing, coincidence. It couldn't possibly have been that helped, even though it was like day and night, like literally just like bing, instant better. But they just denied the story, gaslighted her a little bit and said that couldn't possibly be true because there's no research on it, or they didn't learn that in school, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But we were just happy I was better at that point.
Yeah.
So
Oh
it's
my
like, who
goodness.
cares?
How cool.
Yeah.
So this was when you were 9,
Mm-hmm.
and your mom went through all of what she went through as well. So if you don't mind, I would love to hear a little bit about her situation and how you were able to help her.
Yeah. So her issue, she was seeing some different natural healers. My parents got divorced when I was about 11, which was
Mhm.
really the start of a lot of her issues. It was like the stress of the divorce and the legal battles and the separation and the management that happens of children after that process. And she's the classic, I'm telling you, she won't mind me saying this. She's the classic representation of a Woody Allen quote, which is, whatever I don't express, I repress, and then I grow a her. She's that
Mm.
type. So she's like a cyst grower. She grows cysts on her liver. She grows cysts on like her ovaries or her uterus or fibroids or her lungs. She just like encapsulates the emotion. Like some people encapsulate toxins. Your body can encapsulate that and turn it into cancer. It can encapsulate that stuff and turn it into cysts that are just benign or like skin growths. Some people get shingles when they're stressed. Some people get cold sores, but she just got cysts. And so she would get cysts all over and they wouldn't know what it was, whether it was like a breast cyst or a fibroid, but she ended up with just lots of autoimmune stuff and lots of cysts. And she had like Lyme disease at one point. She had some type of desert virus. She had sarcoidosis, which is a rare lung cyst autoimmune condition. She had lupus. She had a whole plethora of Sjogren's. She had a whole bunch of different autoimmune diagnoses, which were basically coming from repressed anger and
Mm.
sadness that
Mhm.
wasn't properly managed. So she was seeing a lot of natural healers and getting supplements and doing all this work, but no one actually just told her that stress could cause her illness. So
Mm.
I was learning some of a variety of techniques that help you release stress from your physical body. And once I got out of school, I was like, well, let me practice on my family, as we all do. And so I was practicing on her. I'm like, I think there's like a lot of anger holding out in your liver. And so I did some NET, neuro emotional technique, and did some acupuncture to help clear that out of her system. And within like 2 or 3 visits, almost all of her symptoms were gone. Her digestion was better. Her autoimmune things started dropping away. Her health got better. And a lot of it was just that like trapped emotional stuff. They say the issues are in the tissues. And for her, that really was the case.
Right. Wow. I love hearing not about her issues, of course, but that stress and the emotional holding on to those emotions is a huge part of people's health. I think a lot of times we separate our physical and mental health when they are one and the same. I mean, they're tied together. You cannot separate them. So it's really important for everybody who is listening, who is a stuffer, or, who's like, I'll just work through it. And, they just manage, to understand that that is not doing you any service at all. And, for a lot of people, it's funny as a professor, because that's been my main career for the past 20 years. It is inevitable. Students start off the semester, they're good, they're studying, they've taken their first test, it might have been a little stressful, whatever. We get to the middle of the semester and it's like all of a sudden everybody is just down, like they're sick, whatever. We get through fall break, they're a little bit better because they've had a couple of days off, and then we get to like getting close to finals, and then everybody's down again. And it's like, are we not seeing this pattern, people? Like we have to learn how to manage this and recognize the importance of stress and actually feeling all our feelings and letting them be released, so that they're not holding us back and making us sick.
Yeah, I know. And so many people ask me like, well, how do I know if I'm holding on to stress? And the main thing is, if you can think about anything currently or in the past, and it triggers you a little bit, or it makes you emotional, or makes you want to cry, or it makes you get angry, or you still have a negative feeling that comes with thinking about it, then it means there's probably still some more work to do.
Mm-hmm.
One of my healers today, because I go get regular treatments myself, said in Japanese, because she's half Japanese, she said the word busy translates to the heart has no time, or the heart is dead, which in a way is the
Wow.
problem with American culture. Is we're so busy that we're not giving our heart space enough time to really process life, so it dies. And people can say, well, I'm not that busy working, but if you're busy on your phone or social media or screen time, and you're not giving yourself literally just like empty space to process and feel things, then you're not going to really process those emotions properly, and they'll pop up somewhere else later.
Yeah. Yeah. With my children, they'll say, oh, I'm so bored. And I'm like, that's okay. It's fine. Like, go be bored. You'll find something to do eventually. It's okay that you have downtime. It's okay that you're not playing with a friend and, all these things. Like, it's fine to be bored, and you'll be bored for 30 minutes and you'll have a little downtime, and then you'll go find something to do. So yeah, we can't be bored in this culture, because that somehow just transitions into lazy or, something negative. So, so I want to talk a little bit about, anything else that you have felt like you've utilized well, or that's helped you in your health journey, in terms of either your physical or mental health.
Yeah, what's helped me?
You mentioned the healer. How long have you been seeing her?
I think almost a year now.
Okay.
But yeah, having my own team of people has helped. Like, prioritizing my self-care with scheduled appointments is about the only way I'll do it, because I'm such a giver and I care about people and my patients so much. For a while, I was working 6-7 days a week. So I was like, all right, I'm going to cut back on that and start to give myself, figure out what my own wants and needs are, which is more time for myself, or relationships, or family time, or friends, or romantic relationships, and start to schedule out, like get a personal trainer, or see someone, an acupuncturist or an energy healer or craniosacral, for an hour or 2 a week. And just scheduling it made me more accountable and made it happen. So for me, that was huge, was just actually scheduling the time to work out and finding an accountability buddy or a trainer or someone else to do it with. Made it a lot easier than just setting the goals I didn't really quite care about enough to do it on my own.
Very interesting. So it wasn't just, obviously, that exercise is important. That, having time with a therapist or whatever, these things are important. But, this whole knowing is half the battle thing. Yeah, it's half the battle, because you actually have to put things into action, right? So, so the action step that you took was to create a scheduled time for the things that you are now prioritizing.
Yeah, 100%. Made it so much easier. Or I would like commit to it while I was with a friend or a family member. I'm like, I'm going to do this right now, or I'm going to do this by next week. And if I don't, call me and come strangle me or something.
Yeah.
Slap me and put me in line and make me do it.
Yeah. That's awesome though. But that just shows your self-awareness that that's what you need. People may not necessarily even be that self-aware. I find that with coaching clients that there's a lot of self-discovery that has to happen in order for them to start making progress and getting towards that healing. So when they become more self-aware, they go, oh, I didn't even realize I needed that, or I didn't realize I did that, or I didn't realize I said that often. And so when that comes about, now you can actually use that, to make an action step and to move forward.
Definitely. Yeah. The awareness is always the first step in healing anything, I feel like. And that's part of what healing is like learning your darkness, learning the shadow side, or learning the things you do that aren't so good for you. Like, oh, I didn't realize that eating right before bed was maybe bad. Or I didn't realize that even the vegan healthy ice cream still had 40 grams of sugar, or whatever it is. It's like sometimes learning those things is an uncomfortable, like, ouch, I didn't realize I still kind of suck that bad. But that's really helpful, actually. Like the more like, ugh, you can dive into and tolerate, the more you can actually shift and grow from it too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I'm curious how things like sleep come into your practice, or even for yourself. How has that been something that has helped you?
Yeah, for me, sleep is crucial, and I am a grandpa at heart. Like I go to bed at 8:30 and get up at 4 to 5 in the morning.
Okay.
I love the sunrises. So for me, like the early morning light of the sunrise is crucial. So right now I'm going to bed a little bit later because the sunrise is around 7.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'll go to bed at 9 or 10 and wake up at 6 or so. But for me, I think a good 7.5 hours is crucial for me to have steady energy, because sometimes I'll do 12, 14, 16 hours of like a long workday with patients and
Mm-hmm.
meetings. So, and I'm back to back to back with no breaks at all. So it really helps for me to have that. I'll sometimes take like a little half-hour nap at lunch after lunchtime, but for the most part, I'm like go straight through.
Mm-hmm.
So the sleep is super crucial. If I'm not doing that, then that's when I pull out like my adaptogenic herbs, or on rare occasion, like a green tea or dark chocolate or some caffeine to push me through. But I
Mm-hmm.
know that's just, in Chinese medicine, caffeine is stealing energy from tomorrow for today. So I don't want to like over caffeinate myself to work through and create a future energy deficiency, which is where
Yeah.
most people end up. So not
Absolutely.
relying on caffeine and then getting 7.5, 8, 9 hours of sleep every day keeps me fully fueled for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the early morning sunlight, I think, is really beneficial for sleep too.
Absolutely. So do you find that patients come in with a lot of sleep issues or sleep related issues?
Yeah, so many do. A lot of times it's, either stress or sleep hygiene related. And then there's also the subset that are 40 to 50, 60-year-old females who are dealing with major hormone shifts of perimenopause, menopause, that type of thing too.
Yes, I know all about that. Bless it.
Yeah.
So explain what you mean by sleep hygiene.
So they say that 90+% of all sleep issues could be, improved or corrected with just proper habits or
Mm-hmm.
hygiene. Just like if you have bleeding gums, if you were to brush your teeth and floss your teeth, the bleeding gums would go away. Granted, bleeding gums is actually a deeper root cause, usually of digestive issues and poor food and that kind of stuff. But a lot of sleep issues could be regulated better by either dealing with stress better, by learning to calm your mind better with meditation. And the people who say like, meditation, I don't want to do meditation. You're exactly the type of person who needs to meditate. The person who can't do it is the person who needs it the most. It's like when people are like, why won't the person who's overweight exercise? Like, that's the person who needs to at least move the most,
Yeah.
but they're the least likely to do it because it's the hardest, but doesn't mean it's not good for you. But it's like too much caffeine after a certain point of the day, too much screen time, not getting to bed early enough, or not having a consistent sleep schedule. All those things, having your room be cooler or dark enough or quiet enough, are all really important ways for people to sleep and sleep well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Those are all great tips for people to look at, in their personal routine, or maybe if they don't have a routine at all, things to consider in starting a routine. Start with one thing, minimize your screen time at night, right? And then add something else, maybe read a little bit or do some deep breathing when you lay down or something like that. So yeah, I think for many people, sometimes hearing those types of things, it gets to be a little bit overwhelming because they're like, do I have to do all these things at one time? It's like, no, you don't have to do everything at once. This is not an all or nothing type of thing. It's try something, and then add a little bit more, and then add a little bit more. And it becomes something that is routine and habitual that you do as just a part of your, nighttime wind down. So, yeah.
Yep, totally. Yeah, a lot of people do get overwhelmed. Some people are like ready to make those big shifts, but I feel like most people want just like a quick, easy thing that they can add in that isn't, that slowly becomes part of the routine. But ironically, when people are really either depressed or anxious or struggling the most is when they need the most routine. And usually those are people who don't really have one, but some sort of schedule that you stick to is very helpful for those people, I found.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so cool. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and your mom's story and all of those great tips. It's fantastic. If people want to know more about you, if they want to follow you on social media, get in touch, how do they find you?
So right now, main platform is actually Instagram, and it's Dr. Campbell Cares, Dr. Campbell Cares on Instagram. We have a membership as well, which is campbellcaremembership.com. I have a YouTube that I'm working on growing this year, just called Campbell Care. And I have a book on Amazon called Do I Have Adrenal Fatigue?
Okay, awesome. Well, check out Dr. Campbell. I follow him on social media. It's great information. And so for all of you out there who enjoyed what you heard and love Coach Krisler's Convos, make sure you like and subscribe to this platform. And also, if you feel like there's somebody out there who really could benefit from this information, make sure you share this episode and all the episodes with them. Until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.